Hey everybody, thanks for coming. Appreciate you spending this rainy Wednesday with me. If you hear a motorcycle going by outside, that's really just the wind howling. So a little bit of housekeeping to get out of the way here at the beginning. Periodically throughout our time together, I am going to ask you to write a couple of sentences. So now would be a good time to grab a pen and paper, or maybe open a Word document on the computer you're using, or maybe the Notes app on your phone, whatever your weapon of choice for note-taking is. Now would be a good time to have that handy, okay? So having got that housekeeping out of the way, come speak at the Lunch and Learn, they said. It'll be fun, they said. I'm an introvert. But presenting today was my decision. I'll own it. Just like being here today was your decision. And those are just one of about 35,000 decisions we'll make today. Back in 2013, researchers at Sahakian and Labuzeta, both women, by the way, they determined that the average adult makes approximately 35,000 decisions every day. Aren't you exhausted just thinking about it? Well, I mean, some decisions are easy, like this one.
Incorrect feeling.
I sometimes have a feeling I can do crystal meth, but then I think, better not.
Yeah. And some decisions are more difficult, like this one.
Which one is it? You must choose. But choose wisely. He chose poorly.
Apologies if you're still eating. And you don't just make decisions for yourself either, right? Your boss, your coworkers, your clients, your friends, your family, they all ask for your help too, don't they? For example, when our daughter was little, I used to make all her decisions for her. What to wear, when to eat, how much screen time she could have. Over the years, it just became a habit to do things for her. Well, I knew that had to come to an end one day when she came home from her part-time job at Maggie Moo's. Does anybody remember Maggie Moo's? It was a marble slab mix-ins kind of ice cream shop. Well, she had just walked in from having spent the afternoon slinging ice cream to a house filled with the aroma of an apple crisp I had just baked. Her father, my husband, was sitting in his chair, and she came in and flopped on the couch, and I announced the apple crisp was done and there was ice cream in the freezer if anybody wanted it a la mode. And our daughter said, "A la mode sounds great." And I'm like, "Yeah, help yourself." My husband gets up out of his chair, comes to the kitchen. I take my bowl, start to leave. When our daughter from her prone position on the couch said, "I don't think I'd be very good at putting ice cream in a bowl. Can you do it?" Okay, she didn't say it like that, but that is how I heard it. Anyway, you know what I did? I turned around, then I put my bowl on the counter, then I went to the freezer, then I stopped. And I turned around and I said, "Haven't you just spent the last 4 hours literally scooping ice cream into bowls?" Of course, all three of us knew that she had. My husband and I looked at each other and went, "Oh." I picked up my bowl, I exited the kitchen, everybody served themselves, it was fine. But it was then that it hit me. I needed to stop doing things for her and teach her how to make wise choices. Now, our daughter, like most humans, does not want advice until she asks for it. I, like most humans, want to give advice while I'm thinking about it. Rarely do these two occasions happen at the same time. So I had to come up with a way to download everything I want her to know, put it in a data warehouse, and give her 24/7 access. And the easiest way for me to do that is a blog. But first, I had to come up with some criteria she could use that was simple and memorable for making wise choices. Well, at the time, our daughter was a volleyball player. She started playing volleyball in 4th grade, played it all the way through high school or senior year, including club volleyball. So our family spent a lot of time around volleyball teams. And it occurred to me that the letters in team lent themselves to a handy dandy acronym for making wise choices. Time, attention, energy, money, these are our resources. Whenever we have a decision to make, whether that's you have a new client, or you want to remodel the kitchen, or you're entering a new relationship, or you're buying a car. These are the areas of our lives that are going to be impacted. Now, like I said, some decisions are easy. You probably didn't have to think too hard about what you're having for lunch right now, how that would affect your time, energy, attention, or money. But if you get a job offer after this webinar, that's going to affect all 4 of those, right? Let me see if I can illustrate a little better with a short story about time. So prior to my current job at RDSI, I worked for a company who subcontracted to Dayton Power and Light, managing some of their rebate programs. And I did outreach for some of their direct install programs. And my favorite was the small business direct install program. Now, it was a startup. So what does one do when starting up? One enlists the help of one's friends. So they participate in the program. They can hype you up to potential participants. You get some traction, you get some momentum. Bob's your uncle, you're on your way. Well, my best friend's husband owned an office building, and the whole building qualified for the program. So I sent my crew, and they replaced every incandescent bulb in the building with LED bulbs, and much energy and much money was saved. And it got the business owner to thinking that he needed an outreach specialist on his staff. So he asked me to join. Here we are. When I told my lead installer, Jackie, that I was leaving, she asked me where I was going. And I said, well, remember that office building in Beaver Creek you installed? I'm going to work for them. And she said, wait a minute. Are you smart? Because they're smart. I mean, Big Bang Theory smart. There's a whiteboard in every office with strange stuff written on it. Thank you, Sunshine. Well, outreach isn't the only thing I do for RDSI. We are government contractors, and there is a task I had to learn for one of the government contracts. So they gave me a trainer, and his name is Marvin, and he is awesome. He writes complicated code in complicated languages that make computers do complicated things. For me, it was like trying to learn and speak Greek, or in this case, geek. So Marvin would explain the concept, and I'd repeat it back. So the value of the variable x is defined at the beginning of the script, but I have to comment it out later when it becomes a keyword. And Marvin would go, no. And we'd go back to the whiteboard, and I'd hear Jackie's voice in my head again saying, are you smart? You can imagine how frustrated Marvin and I got. It was very clear that in order to communicate, I had to learn his language. Now, I'm a big fan of online learning, and with your Dayton Metro Library card, you get free access to lynda.com. So I called up their computer languages page, I showed it to Marvin, and I asked him which one I should take. And he chose 5. 5? When am I going to have time to learn 5 computer languages? So I chose one, and it turned out to be the best decision, and not for the reason I intended. Marvin is a former math teacher, and he was very supportive of my effort to learn his language. And it not only gave us a language in which to communicate, it gave us an experience over which to bond. Totally worth the time I invested. So speaking of investing time, remember when I asked you to get something to write on and something to write with? Well, it's time to pull that out, please, and recreate this worksheet. Now, the heading is not so important as the letters down the side. So please at least write a T, and next to it, I'd like you to write a couple of sentences about a decision you need to make regarding your time. Maybe you've been asked to join a board and you really want to, but you haven't yet considered how much time it's really going to take. Or maybe in this pandemic, you haven't been sleeping well. There are rumors of pandemic nightmares. Maybe you've been robbing yourself of sleep and you need to commit to going to bed every weeknight at 10 p.m. So whatever it is, no matter how inconsequential or consequential or private, because now that this month we are not able to sit 8 people at a table at the Mandalay, nobody has to know what you write down. However, if you'd like to share your decision, please feel free to retype it in the chat box, and I'm going to give you 1 minute, after which I'll check with Anne and see if we have anybody who wants to share. Clear as mud? Go. Okay, Anne, I'm not sure that I can hear you. I might be there. I see your face though. Is there anybody who wants to share?
There are a couple listed here, and I just, in the order of time here, I will read them off. So there's one here that says prioritize better, commit to rest, not just sleep, but resting body, mind, and soul.
Nice.
There's one that says, I've been asked to take over a page on Facebook and I need to figure out how to fit it in my time blocked schedule that I've already created. And then discipline my time to be more deliberate about what I accomplish each day. I think those are decisions that in some cases, not necessarily the specifics, but we're all sort of facing at this point, right?
Absolutely. Those are great.
Anyone else have anything you want to share? I'll keep an eye out. Go ahead, Marty.
All right, we'll move on then. The second thing I thought would be useful for our daughter to consider when trying to make a decision is it worth my energy? So back in 2003, our family moved from the Dayton area to Georgia, and our daughter started first grade there. So every morning we would stand awkwardly at the front door, waiting for the school bus to come and pick her up. I wanted to send her off with a positive attitude. So I looked for a book that would guide our conversations. I looked everywhere, online, bookstores, library. I couldn't find anything like what I had in mind. So, you know what Toni Morrison said? If there's a book you really want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. So I did. Now, I just made that sound really simple. It really wasn't. I figured the easiest thing to do would be to write daily encouragements based on the character traits her school was teaching. The school year is 180 days long, so I just wrote about these topics over and over again and stayed one day ahead. When somebody would ask me what I did for fun, which is not as weird a question as it originally appears, because we were new in town, and those are kind of getting to know you questions, right? What's your name? Where are you from? What do you do in your spare time? Well, in my spare time, I was putting together this book for our daughter. And some of the people I was talking to wanted to see it because the people I was talking to were mothers of first graders. Because at the time, I was a first grade teacher's aide. But all I had to show them was notes in my notebook in Marty glyphics. So I tried to shape the material into something legible, which interestingly drew other people who wanted to help. And it was like we created a circuit of renewable energy that kind of pushed the project forward. Here, for example, this is the cover of the book. My husband shot and designed this cover. The girl in the green shirt was a student in my class at the time. The woman hugging her is her mom, who was a teacher in the classroom next door. The girl in the pink backpack, her other daughter. The bus we're standing in front of, owned by the school we worked for. There was someone else who proofread and edited the material for me. There was somebody who printed the books for me. So at the end of the project, I had 150 books printed and sold all of them. It took 3 years to sell 150 books. Was it worth all that energy to sell 150 books in 3 years? Yes, because the material's evergreen. It exists as an ebook on my website right now. It helped me make friends, which was important at the time since we were new in town. It has its own Facebook page. And if our daughter has daughters, it'll still be around to help her. Totally worth the energy I expended. So now I would like you to expend some energy and pull that worksheet back out. And next to the E, please write a sentence or two about something you need to do that's going to cause you to expend some energy. For example, maybe this is the time for you to build a case for getting a promotion at work. Maybe you need to develop a new exercise routine to battle the COVID-19 pounds that, because the gyms have been closed, you haven't been able to go. So whatever it is, no matter how small, how large, how inconsequential, how sequential, or how private or public, I will give you 1 minute, at the end of which I will check with Anne and see if there's anybody who would care to share in the chat box their decisions about spending energy. Ready? Go. What say you, Anne?
We've got quite a few that have things to
Oh.
share on this one. So let's see, what are the
Good.
projects we need that we're deciding if it's worth our energy? Let's see. Someone says they still need to organize their closets. Someone else wants to tackle weight training. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but my weight doesn't need any training. It actually has come back just fine sitting at home during the lockdown, right? So I'm assuming, Debbie, that you mean weight training like getting stronger, right? Update my nonprofit's website. Spending energy on my vision. Now, this is going to sound familiar to a lot of people, I'm sure. I need to go through my entire office to separate the papers and stuff between different businesses so I can move some of them to a new office. Start a sustainability podcast, an e-store.
Nice.
Weed my gardens. And then, yeah, Debbie has clarified that, yes, the weight training is, she does need to strengthen and tighten and tone, I guess. So, and
That's good.
Marty, we've had a couple really nice comments I just want to share with you. The fact that you have a very calming presence and good presentation, great communication skills. So there's a little encouragement for you. So keep going, Marty. Great stuff.
Going to make me verklempt.
No, none of that.
You.
So
Thank
it's
you.
all good. We love it.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Okay, so the next thing you should probably take into consideration when making a decision is it worth my attention? So at RDSI, I work with clients who are being held hostage by their processes. And often they don't even know it because it has happened so slowly over time, it escapes their attention. They don't feel like they can stop and figure out how to improve the process when they can just do what they've always done. Now, the problem with that is they are robbing themselves of a future, right? Of their future team, time, energy, attention, and money. Because they can't get where they want to go doing what they've always done. They're stunting their growth. Maybe I can make it a little more clear with another story. Before my team automated Middletown Christian School's requisition process, a teacher had to print out an Excel spreadsheet, fill it out, send it through interoffice mail, wait for 2 signatures, and for it to come back through interoffice mail. It could take a teacher 2 weeks to get 21 pencils, and that's if the requisition was approved. If it was not approved, that process started all over again. Now, when we met with the administration, they were happy with all their processes. So when I asked, was there anything the staff particularly struggled with? They mentioned the requisition process. And when they whiteboarded it with us, it became pretty obvious, pretty fast, that this workflow had gotten way more complicated than they realized. They had just done it this way for so long that they didn't realize it had become burdensome, particularly for new hires. So the best news was they already used software that lent itself to an automated requisition process. All my developer had to do was add a couple of power apps and they're on their way. So while it took a bit of the administration's attention to whiteboard this workflow with us, brief us on it, test the deliverable, totally worth it. Because now they have a streamlined, secure requisition process, and a teacher can get 21 pencils in hours if there's somebody to go get them, instead of days or weeks, and they can turn their attention back to the students. Well, it's your turn to pay attention to that worksheet again, please. Next to the A, I'd like you to write a sentence or two about a decision that you need to make requiring your attention. For example, maybe in your email inbox right now, there's a 2-week-old message from a high maintenance client that you've been putting off replying to. Maybe there's a new dark spot on your arm, and if you paid attention to it, it would require a trip to the dermatologist. So no matter what it is, big, little, private, public, please write a sentence or two about it. I'll give you 1 minute, after which I'll throw it back to Ann and see if anybody wants to share. Ready? Go. Okay, Ann, do we have any victims? I mean, volunteers?
I don't see, let's see, not much here today. Oh, here's a good one, actually. Deciding on a patio or a deck repair of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
Also, somebody mentions a pet that needs some attention, toenails need trimmed and so forth, and this person is scared to do them. So that's definitely going to take some time and attention.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that. I'm terrified to trim my dog's nails too.
Tackling taxes now. There we go. Yeah, that's a big one, isn't it? Now that we had that extension, but now we've actually really got to do them because eventually that date will be upon us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Keeping a son up to date on online classwork while somebody else is working. There's another attention to finishing taxes here. Somebody mentions trying to use this time to create policies and procedures to ensure we're all on the same page. So sort of an example of taking some time now while we supposedly have the time to focus on some of those things. Sorting through clutter and stuff as I purge at home. Oh boy, Andrea, I don't envy you this. Teaching a teenage daughter to drive.
Oh.
So I don't envy anyone that challenge. My kids are still young enough that I don't have to worry about that for a little while, but yeah, that's going to be a challenge. Oh, this is a good one. When and where to wear my mask this summer. And you know what? There are a lot of decisions that we're going to have to make that relate to the pandemic that are going to require some of that attention as we think through whether we're going to go out, whether we're not. Maybe if we're going to go out, where are the safe places to go versus other places? My family has some decision making to undertake related to a summer vacation that's been planned for a while, and whether we're going to try to take what we can of that opportunity if we're going to try to do something different. So I see purge and file paperwork piles on my desk, how to plan a graduation party for my high school son in this COVID-19 situation. Yes. Those are all very good decisions and suggestions that you've made that are certainly going to require some attention. So thanks for sharing, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
All right, Marty, next point.
Okay. The last thing I think about when making a decision, if it's applicable, is it worth my money? So money is a touchy subject, very personal. So in the interest of authenticity and transparency and trust amongst the community, I am going to tell you the story I do not want to tell you. Well, some people are spenders and some are savers, right? I tend to fall heavily on the saver side. So when there is a large expense to consider, I really mull it over. For example, there is a certain rock band I'm rather fond of. Perhaps you've heard of them. Back in February of 2019, they announced they were going to do a residency in Las Vegas, and I really wanted to go. But obviously, it would be pricey. The concert tickets, airfare, hotel room, food, rental car, and all this times two, because my husband would come with me. Well, as the time for the ticket sales drew near, my inbox filled with tempting promotions, including a promo code for early ticket purchasing, which really set me to thinking. The last night of the residency was on our wedding anniversary. Our daughter was about to graduate college, and we were thinking about rewarding ourselves for the role we played in that. And she was moving to Chicago to start her first full-time job, and we were thinking about celebrating our empty nester status. And I knew, given that amount of time, our budget would accommodate it. So I pulled the trigger. And I was okay with this expense right up until the day of the concert. Now remember, I bought these tickets. My husband hadn't seen them yet. So I handed him his in case we got separated, and he was surprised. Yes, they're pricey, and those aren't even front row tickets. Now, I had agonized and rationalized and saved for this for 6 months, and I was still insecure about it. So when he saw the price and said, "You paid $500 to see Def Leppard?" I said, "Actually, I paid $1,000 to see Def Leppard because, I'm going to." And then he asked the one question I did not want to hear. It's just one word with 3 little letters. That one word released 6 months of built up and held in angst. And I said, "I am a grown woman with a full-time job and a savings account. And like Donna Summer, I work hard for the money. And if I want to take $1,000 of it and go pay Def Leppard to pour some sugar on me, the only question you should be asking me is, 1 lump or 2?
Got the peaches, I got the cream, sweet to taste. Saccharin, I'm hot, classy, wise, thick and sweet. From my head to my feet. Do you taste sugar?
My sainted husband forgave me for releasing the Kraken on him. He accompanied me to the concert. He's the one behind the camera, documenting with video, the aforementioned sugar pouring. We still talk about that trip to this day, And it was 8 months ago. So all of that to say, if there's something you really want and you can still pay your bills, buy it. If you really want those Christian Louboutin pumps, think about it carefully. And if you can afford them, buy them. On the other hand, if you'd rather take that $800 and put it into a Roth IRA, do that. Only you can determine the best use of your money. Well, right now, I'd like you to determine to take out your worksheet one more time. And next to the M, please write down either an item you want to purchase or an investment you want to make. Then I'd like you to write down a sentence about why you haven't done it yet. What's keeping you from it? So, as usual, I'm going to give you 1 minute to do that, at the end of which I'm going to ask Ann if we have any brave souls who also want to share with the community decisions about their money. Ready? Go. Time's up. And any brave volunteers, Ann?
We have quite a few here. Some very good, interesting decisions that people are making.
Good.
Wanting to fly to Florida in June for a friend's retirement ceremony, trying to decide if they were going to save some money at a friend's house, but now that's not going to work out, so we have to decide on a hotel or whether we even go at all. Buying a new vehicle, a Jeep, brand new model, mini blinds for 2 back bedrooms. Let's see, purchase a franchise and start my own business. Okay, that's a big decision. New car for me or save for my son's first car. You know who you are, buy it for yourself. Let your son take care of his own car. That's my advice. Selling my house, buying a condo, trying to decide on the perfect place to live. Let's see, let me go up a little bit here. I think I missed a couple. Help to pay off my granddaughter's student loans.
That's a big decision.
Continuing my education, PhDs aren't cheap and maybe not necessary. My husband's agreeing with you, Brandy, there in my background, he's agreeing with you. Somebody wants to put in a pool so the family can have a place to get together. Oh, I think it's a great summer to do that.
Yeah.
Put on an elevated patio on our home. We've been there 25 years. This fall, the step out the patio door is 15 feet down. You know what? I think maybe you should just do that for safety reasons. So great decisions. We love the interaction here. Great decisions. And I don't know whether you can see them on your end, Marty. Lots of comments about Def Leppard. You have quite a following among Def Leppard fans in the chat here. So
Awesome.
Pamela says she would love a sunroom, like on an addition to her house. It sounds like. So good, nice. Good sharing, everybody. Thanks for contributing.
So Ann, I may need you to save this chat for me and send it to me. I don't know if I can do it myself, but I'd love to see those comments. So thank you Thank you for sharing your decisions today, not just about money, but about your time and your energy and your attention. I appreciate it. I appreciate the courage and the authenticity and the transparency. Thank you. And I think I'm preaching to the choir here, but just in case, I'd like to encourage us not to judge other people by the decisions we make. If you want to quit your corporate job and open your own basket weaving business, I might think that's the craziest decision in the world. But that's coming from the woman who spent $1,000 on Def Leppard concert tickets. Opening your own basket weaving business may make perfect sense for your time, energy, attention, and money. I think Lin-Manuel Miranda said it best. We have no control who lives, who dies, or who tells our story. So given that, let's make the best decisions we can, given the information we have, using the "is it worth your team" filter, and stick with them in the face of the inevitable guilt, doubt, and adversity. And sometimes we need a little encouragement or even accountability to stick with our decisions. And you've come to the right place for that today. Feel free to get in touch with me. There's how you can. Feel free to get in touch with each other. And do they have a gallery view? Can they see each other?
There isn't a visual component in webinars,
Okay.
but you can add your contact information in the chat. And then if you just click on the 3 dots to the right where it says all panelists and attendees on the chat screen, you can save it and it will be like a text file on your computer. So you'll actually be able to see other people's LinkedIn or their contact information and so forth. So if you would
Cool.
like to enter in your information in the chat, people will have the chance to see it. Okay, I see the 3 dots are not there like normal, somebody said. You know what? I can save the chat and I can send it back out to an email. And with Marty's permission, if the recording comes through, I have recorded this presentation. I know that there were some who were not able to make it today, and I will be sharing the recording with them. And I can certainly send a link to it or put it up on our YouTube and allow people to have the link to that. I'm not sure how that works exactly yet, but we will make sure that you have the opportunity to have the information that Marty has shared today. I do see someone has a raised hand here. Let me see if I can figure out who that was. Okay, they must have taken it back down. Marty did agree that she has some, is willing to answer some questions. So are there any questions that you'd like to put either in the chat, I'll watch there, but also the Q&A function that should be down at the bottom of your screen? Anybody have any questions you'd like to share with Marty?
And while you're thinking of questions, let me just say that I realize this is like the grilled cheese and tomato soup of decision making. This is, you know, shallow and basic in a framework for, it's when you first get hit with a decision you know you have to make and your mind is just all scattered and where do I even begin? Well, begin here with your team. So knowing that decision making is a very deep and personal process, I provided some resources that would take you a little deeper. I've vetted these things. These are articles I've read, books I've read, podcasts I've listened to that were helpful. So you can feel free to take a screenshot of this or get in touch with me and I'll be happy to email it to you.
Marty, we need, I'll put my email address in the chat here. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, I can certainly connect you with Marty. Marty, are you in a place where you can see the chat where you could also include, and I know that your contact information was on the screen just a minute ago.
Here's some
so
more. Here's some more
there-
contact information for me.
There you go. So we are not sending out a copy of the slides only because there are video clips and so forth in there. So it's not exactly a typical slide presentation that we can send out, but certainly we can give you connections to those if you want to reach out to one of us, and we will send you that information. But I don't want to send something that has copyrighted information out to a gazillion people without any knowledge of, you know what, that's the former librarian in me, right?
You protect us, yes.
Yes,
I
right,
appreciate
exactly.
that.
And yes, to Mindy's question, yes, it was recorded, and I will work to figure out what the best way of sharing the recording is, whether that's just to send you a link in an email or whether that's to put it up on our WiBN YouTube page. So just hang tight with me a day or so and we'll get that out to you and make it available. Absolutely.
So I'd
Any
like
other
to say,
questions? Okay, wait, I do have a question here.
Oh.
Let's see. It says, first off, Marty, thanks, you rock. Would you or are you planning on writing another book? And along the same lines, there was a question in the chat, Marty, about whether you do keynote presentations.
oh, does this count?
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
This would kind of fall into that keynote presentation, wouldn't it? How much
Then,
experience have you had with speaking and doing presentations, Marty?
Well, I used to do a half-hour live show every day for 21st graders for 4 years. So there you go.
You know what? Children are the toughest audience, I think.
And at one point, me and my partner, Laura Dalton, used to lead worship for 5th grade boys. You talk about a tough room.
Oh yeah, I got that at home right now. Here's another question for you. How did you get your book published, or did you self-publish it?
I self-published. Just the 150 copies, and when they were gone, that was it. So now, yeah, just it's easier to be an ebook.
And somebody has asked, would you put your resources page up again? I think there were people who would like to see the resources page.
Here we go.
There we go. All right, any last questions before we wrap things up? Thank you everyone for coming. We so appreciate your support of WiBN and the Better Business Bureau during this difficult time in history. A couple Better Business Bureau events I will call to your attention. We do have upcoming a program called Circles of Trust, sort of like an entrepreneur group chat, if you will, and those are going to start on Wednesday, May 27th, early in the morning. If you'd like more information about that, you can reach out to me and I'll be happy to connect you with it. We're also doing a Better Business Bureau happy hour from 6 to 7 on May 28th. And again, we would be happy to talk to you further about that. Sorry, my phone decided to go off in the middle of this presentation. So we would be happy to talk to you about any of those options. And again, I'll just remind you, there's a coffee talk this Friday and also next Friday that you can access at WiBN.org. All right, any final comments or thoughts? Marty, thank you for your time today and sharing your important message with us. It was great, and we so appreciate your willingness to be vulnerable and share your thoughts with us.
Well, thank you. And I just want to echo Ann's sentiments. If you need anything, reach out to your friends in WiBN. That's this year especially, we are all here to elevate her.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care. We'll talk to you again soon.